2000, if you recollect, was the dot-com boom year.
Right.
Where Samir Bhatia made millions, and then you had Yahoo, you had Netscape, all making money. Okay, that was a time when that bug caught both my friend and me, and we said, let's do. And we zeroed down on creating a legal database. Okay, not many people know, but Westlaw was introduced by Manupatra into India in 2004.
Oh.
And nothing was available digitally
at
that time. So my colleague and I, my co-founder Priyanka and I, we used to go around the country collecting judgments.
Wow.
And then transporting them here to say, look, we are on the web. Why don't you consider this? So one High Court, and we still have that letter, and one day we'll frame that letter, asked us for a copy of our web. When we started, I want to correct you one thing. There were over 50 websites who were in this space or were trying to do this.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah. But coming from an MBA background, corporate background, the first thing we did was to do a SWOT analysis of all those websites. And we found one weakness. My best experience, which I always mention, is giving a demo at 36,000 feet.
Okay, I want to hear more about this.
But there was the CFO of a large, one of the largest companies in India sitting next to me on a flight. So we got chatting. He asked me what I do. I told him this. He said, wow, great. I asked him, do you want to see? He said, yes. Delhi, Bombay, 1.5 hours. I showed him a full demo. Within 7 days, we got a check from their office.
Oh, wow.
See, when we started off Manupatra, no one took us seriously. No lawyer background, both of us. No tech background. And here we are trying to disrupt. And we are proud. We have been disruptors in this sector.
So I was actually trying to wonder, initially, because you also had other legal research databases, not within India, but outside, like the global ones. Did you take inspiration from them, or were you constantly trying to differentiate from them? How did that work out? How are you continuing to be a differentiator? And what is the plan for Manupatra in the coming years right now? Because there are a lot of other products under the Manupatra umbrella right now. How did you start diversifying? Like, how did you first come up with the idea of just building out newer, more specific products?
That's more into Priyanka and my DNA. We cannot sit idle.
Hi, everybody. Today we have Deepak with us. He is the CEO and founder of the biggest Indian legal research database, that's Manupatra. You've all heard of it. You've used it in your law school or at work or just generally otherwise as well. And it's I think today's conversation is going to be very, very interesting because Deepak is a non-lawyer, non-technical person who has built a legal tech startup at a time where startups weren't really a thing. So this is back in the early 2000s, in 2001. And I think we'll have a lot to learn about how just the entire space in India has really progressed through the years. So yeah, once again, thank you so much, Deepak, for agreeing to do this interview today. And welcome to the show. Yeah, absolutely. And welcome to Parag. So we'll start from the absolute beginning, Deepak. I want to understand the origins of how, you moved from manufacturing to investment banking and then finally to entrepreneurship in the legal space. Like, what has that journey been like?
It's been a very exciting journey. Looking back, I may not have done it on hindsight. But once you are into it, you keep on building block by block. And you reach a point where there is a point of no return. You just have to keep on going ahead. So that's what has been. Yes, I started my career as a manufacturing, which everyone in the 90s or the late 80s did, because there was nothing called a service industry at that time. I don't know whether you were born in the
I
mid
mean, I
80s.
was, but I don't have any clear memories of that time.
Yeah. So it was only manufacturing. You didn't have any other options.
Mhm.
So straight out of my MBA, I got recruited by one of the top companies in auto ancillaries today. Started my career there, which was a greenfield. I was their first employee
Wow. Okay.
and was working more as an executive assistant to the CMD. So in all my career, whether it's manufacturing or banking, I've been very lucky to have excellent mentors, which is very, very important when you're starting your career or if you want to get into entrepreneurship and start something of your own. Because you learn a lot by just observing them, how they talk to people, how they do things, how they ask for reports, etc. So I've been very, very lucky in all my jobs to have first class mentors, and I owe it to them.
Okay. So, how did this bug of entrepreneurship bite you, like when you were doing investment banking?
Okay, in the late 99, okay, third quarter of 99, there was this famous report by McKinsey, the BPO market of $55 billion they painted in front of everyone. And banking was not really my cup of tea because it was too procedural. I I work where there are no limits. You do what you want, how you do. But in banking, you have to do what RBI says you do.
Right.
And there was a very dear friend of mine who was also interested to get into IT. So the two of us decided to do something. And at that time, this call center BPO was a rage. This is late 99, early 2000. So I joined him and we went around looking at various options. One of the options we looked at that time was uh, transcription services,
Mhm.
where people were recording, you download and you do it. We soon realized technology will overtake that, and we were right. Within a year and a half, that industry went hot. We had already identified some space, so we built up a BPO center, and we started doing data work for US companies.
Okay.
And that time we realized when we have this, why don't we get into the legal space? Because 2000, if you recollect, was the dot-com boom year,
Right. Right.
where Sabir Bhatia made millions. And then you had Yahoo, you had Netscape, all making money. Okay, that was a time when that bug caught both my friend and me, and we said, let's do. And we zeroed down on creating a legal database. Because at that time, India, there was the judgments were just not available. It was either in the minds of senior lawyers, they could
Mhm.
remember judgments,
Right.
or it was big law firms, lawyers, they had a library and they had few journals.
Right.
So we started digitizing. We had a team of people. So one page used to be actually physically typed by two people and then compared to eliminate errors.
Wow.
Because all OCR technology at that time was 91% accurate.
Hmm.
So it was basically a two man doing the same page.
Wow.
And nothing was available digitally
Hmm.
at that time. So my colleague and I, my co-founder Priyanka and I, we used to go around the country collecting judgments
Wow.
and then transporting them here. We used to request the high courts to give us the copies directly. They said, you are not a newspaper, you are not a journal, we cannot give you. And we used to say, look, we are on the web. Why don't you consider this? So one high court, and we still have that letter, and one day we'll frame that letter, asked us for a copy of our web. I will not name that court, but we have that copy and we laugh still. Okay, where we started from and where we are today.
it
So
sounds like quite a journey to have to go to manually to courts to get judgments
yes,
and then
yes.
transcribing it.
Manually we used to go. Then we contacted the booksellers who used to deal with old copies, journals. We bought all that. Today we have what, a 20,000 square feet godown where all these things are kept.
Yeah. Wow.
We retain all these copies, physical copies.
Wow.
So when we started, I want to correct you one thing. There were over 50 websites who were in this space or were trying to do this.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yeah. But I mean, coming from an MBA background, corporate background, the first thing we did was to do a SWOT analysis of all those websites.
Hmm.
And we found one weakness. They were all focused on corporate. They were not focused on the 90% of the market, which is the lawyer community.
Right.
The other weakness those websites had was they were not willing to invest money in creating feet on street.
Hmm.
They were more dependent on word of mouth, etc. So, keeping this in view, we said, okay, our focus will be lawyer market, corporate market, government, judiciary. And we invested money in creating our own marketing sales force. Now, at that time, it looks very easy today, but at that time,
Yeah. How do you convince somebody?
a laptop used to cost 2 lakh rupees, and we gave a laptop to each of our RMs.
Wow.
Today, a laptop is 40, 50,000. It's no big shake, but at that time, it was 2 lakh rupees. And we knew unless you have a laptop, you cannot go and give a demo.
Right.
And we came up with the feet on street thing. The other reason for feet on street was when we started, we contacted the booksellers because they had a direct link with the lawyers and the corporates. So they said, we want 40% commission.
Hmm.
He said, boss, who gives 40% commission? Yeah, what will I earn? So these two things made us decide. We opened a Bombay office, then Bangalore, then Chennai. And then today we have 18 offices with a subsidiary in Dhaka.
Wow.
So that was probably, if I look back, investment in our sales channel was our most fruitful and the best ROI that we've ever got.
And I'm actually interested to know what was the pitch at that point of time, because of course, like you didn't have laptops. A lot of people didn't have internet access and laptops. So what was the pitch? How was Manupatra pitching itself at that point of time?
Okay. You'll be surprised to know in 2001, 16th August, we launched. Only Bombay had some semblance of internet connectivity and desktops. Forget laptops. No one had laptops.
Mm.
Okay. So it was only Bombay, and that was a market because your big law firms at that time were in Bombay. And the corporates were in Bombay. And I, coming from a corporate background and having friends and mentors in corporate, used to take references from them, go to the people in the corporates. Boss, look at us. My best experience, which I always mention, is giving a demo at 36,000 feet.
Okay, I want to hear more about this.
Okay, so at that time, we didn't have that much of a data, so one could put that in a laptop. So that also answers your question on internet. We had our data on laptop on which we used to give demo if the client didn't have an internet connection. If the client had an internet connection, we used to connect that with a laptop and give them the demo. But there was the CFO of a large, one of the largest companies in India sitting next to me on a flight. So we got chatting. He asked me what I do. I told him this. He said, wow, great. I asked him, do you want to see? He said, yes. Delhi, Bombay, 1.5 hours. I showed him a full demo. Within 7 days, we got a check from their office.
Oh, wow.
So these are some small peppy experiences we have had, which really are another great experience. I don't know if Soumya will let me say that, is our inauguration in Bombay in October. So we had this in Taj, Bombay, in the basement where their halls are. And we had around 150, 160 people, including some of our competitors sitting there to see what we were doing. Okay, and my co-founder Priyanka was giving the demo. So after the demo was over, one of the workers of Taj comes up to her and says, "Madam, your product will be a great success." So we thought he's saying he wanted a big tip or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were very happy with 150 people there and enjoying themselves, watching our demo. So she just casually asked him, "Why do you say that?" He says, "This is the seat where you were giving the demo and where you were sitting, exactly where Amitabh Bachchan sat and launched KBC."
Wow. I think it was clearly a very lucky seat.
Yes,
But
you
also,
bet.
I think the product, I think only the very important people eventually ended up in the seat.
You bet. So, I mean, we still have a photograph of Priyanka sitting there and giving the demo.
Wow. So
So from,
I also want to know, why did you choose the name Manupatra? Like, how does that happen?
okay, as I was saying, early 90s was the dot-com boom. Any letter with a 2 or 3 letter combination had already gone.
Okay.
Everyone had booked, whether they needed or not. And that time you only had .com. You didn't have 101 variations
Wow.
today, which you can go in for.
Right.
So everything with law, lex, kanun, vakil, wakalat,
Gone.
they're all gone. Okay. So it took us 2-3 months actually to come up with this name. So one fine day we said, okay, let's look at Manusmriti.
Mhm.
Because Manusmriti is the first laws of India.
Right.
But even that was not available. So we said, okay, we had a brainwave. Let's break this up into 2. Manu, because Manu created the first laws, and Patra, because laws written on paper.
Okay.
So Manupatra. Our apprehension at that time was, being a North Indian name, Manupatra, it may not go down well or people in terms of brand recollection in South. But surprisingly, it was well received. And because the name was such unique, people used to ask us, why Manupatra?
But yeah,
So that was a good starting point for us. So that's how Manupatra came in. And when Manupatra came in, we gave it to our designers. They came up with the quill in the bottle. Because in the old days, it was written on a quill. So that's how our logo came in.
Wow, okay, that's a very interesting story. So just going back to early days, right? How did you convince to join a startup, Deepak? Like, because startup culture was not the way it is right now. How do you?
Okay, I don't recollect in the early 90s people calling it a startup.
Sorry, a new company in the .com era.
Okay, to that extent, we were very lucky because a friend of mine, whom I will not name, had a very large corporate.
Okay.
So we used to tell the people, look, that is a guarantee because the corporate is backing us. It was the individual backing us, but we always said we have been incubated by the corporate. They never invested a dime in us. That's a separate thing. But yes, that convinced people to join us. At that time, people wanted to be on the payrolls of that company. Today, if we say you be on the payroll of that company, they'll say, no, we want to be on the payroll of Manupatra. So that's how the times have changed.
So from your days of your first early product to now, can you sort of walk us through how the product evolved and what are your current, like you mentioned earlier, right? What are the other kind of newer products that you're working on at the moment?
See, when we started off Manupatra, no one took us seriously. They thought, as Priyanka and I love to use the phrase, babes in the woods. Literally, no lawyer background, both of us, no tech background. And here we are trying to disrupt. And we are proud. We have been disruptors in this sector. So people said you're not a full publishing house because we are not in print. So we started looking at getting into print. To get into print, we started acquiring journals. Not many people know, but we have made over 20 acquisitions.
Wow.
Between 95 and 2000. Before people realized what Manupatra is doing, we had actually swept the market out of whatever was available at that time.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot of capital. I even want to hear the story of how that capital came.
It was all internally funded.
Wow.
Or even till today, we have not raised money, nor are we going out to raise money in future. We are touch wood, our cash flows are good.
Wow.
Even the major investments that we are doing, it's all internal accruals. So we made those acquisitions, and then we started publishing journals. We had at our peak around 18 or 19 journals, basically one for each high court.
Wow.
At that time, people were doing monthly. We started the trend of fortnightly journals, which put a lot of pressure on the existing publishers. They don't like us, by the way. The publishers and the booksellers hate us. They hate us.
Put them out of the business effectively, so I'm sure.
I will not use those words.
Okay, you've definitely given them a run for their money.
Yes. Because we were running this as a corporate and not as a mom and pop store. Well, if you look at the landscape when we started, it was a mom and pop industry. Even today, except for 2 or 3 players, everyone is a mom and pop.
So I was actually trying to wonder, initially, because you also had other legal research databases, not within India, but outside, like the global ones. Did you take inspiration from them, or were you constantly trying to differentiate from them? How did that work out?
Okay, not many people know, but Westlaw was introduced by Manupatra into India in 2004.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I did not find that information online.
Even Westlaw in India today, the people will not know that, but for 2 years, Manupatra was their wholesaling agents. And actually, we learned a lot from them in terms of processes, in terms of sales, etc. Priyanka and I were even invited to Minneapolis, where they're headquartered, to visit them to see how they do things.
Wow.
And then in the winter of, I think, 94 or 95, we visited Minneapolis. And that's not a place to visit in winters, let me tell you, Minneapolis. Okay, well, it's totally white and cold. But we were there and they took us around and all that. They made us an offer to take care of the sales in Southeast Asia from India. We declined. So 2 years, they were pretty unhappy when we said we cannot continue, because we had come up with print, and even till 95, internet was not very popular in the country. The penetration was very, very low. And we were toying with coming up with CDs. So in 95, 96, we came up with CDs because we wanted to tap a bigger market. So we launched CDs, which were very well received. Then came our print. Then somewhere in 2011 and 12, we decided to discontinue print. And in 2014, we decided to discontinue CDs. So today, we are out and out, cloud-based, SaaS-based, internet-based, whatever you call it.
Right. So you've seen the evolution, right? From like having things saved.
I don't call it evolution. I call it disrupting the industry.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, even technology-wise, right? Like just from having things saved locally to having everything accessible on the cloud from anywhere in the world, right? You've seen that entire evolution. I really want to get your thoughts on how legal tech has sort of changed in India in those very many years. And I'd be glad if you can sort of break it into chunks so we can get more depth to that answer.
Okay, first, there was nothing called legal tech in early
I'm
2000s
sure.
or 90s. This is a phrase which has come up in the last 4-5 years. Okay, we never used to say we are a legal tech or anything. Now, because everyone says that, so we also forced to say, okay, we are a legal tech company. Just because you're in law and you are technology based, you become legal tech.
Yeah, broadly.
See, earlier the major evolution that we have seen or that we have in Manupatra brought about is moving away from a Boolean based search to a natural language search. See, today,
So just
99.
for our audience, can you sort of break it down a little bit more?
Okay, Boolean is when you say the cat jumped the wall, you have to put that in a phrase so that the engine treats it as a phrase and looks for identical phrase. 99% of the search engines in our industry are still Boolean based. But Boolean is passe. Even Google and Bing and all have moved away from this. The future, current and future is NLP, natural language progression. Okay. Now, using the same phrase, cat jumped the wall, you will not put that in a phrase. You will write just as it is.
Mm-hmm.
The NLP algorithm will pick it up what you are sensing and will give you throw the right answers. In Boolean, you could not get relevant answers.
Mm-hmm.
NLP gives you, and the technology today gives you, to give the audience what they want. Because when you do something in Google, you only look at the first 10 results on the first page.
Yeah.
You will not go on the second page. This is what NLP is, and this is what we introduced around 8-9 years back. And we tell our customers, we don't want you to go on to the second page. You will get your results in the first 10. And 95% probability will be the first 5, what you're looking for. So that's the major changes in NLP. Then going forward, look, legal research and creating a database today is a commodity business. Okay, it's very easy to take a subscription of Manupatra and download judgments and set up a website. You know, a lot of these so-called legal startups funded by venture capitalists or private equity who have done this. Okay, and we have closed down those subscriptions because we are using analytics at the back end and AI to track these people.
Right.
And we have closed them down. So future now is NLP that will come to majorly into analytics. Because the user will not waste his time even reading. He wants the answer. So that's going forward.
And what are the new features that you've added to Manupatra in the last 5 years or 4 years? Of course, you spoke about NLP, but what are other features? Because I've seen a lot of things that are happening on the website.
It's been a total turnaround. Okay. It'll be very, very difficult for me even to remember because what are features? Now, as Soumya just points out, there are 110 new features that we have introduced. And some of them, I mean, are very small things. Like when you're a lawyer, you're reading a book, you want to highlight things. So we have given a feature to highlight. You want to add a sticky note. There's a sticky note available. Okay. Then we take you to the relevant passage. In a judgment of 100 page, your relevant is just a few lines. We take you directly there. Okay, when you're searching in Manupatra, you're also searching articles simultaneously. So, and we don't want you to restrict your search to a particular code. We tell you to go and search the entire database. And then you have filters and then you narrow down what you want. So these are some of the main things which come to my mind.
In fact, I remember looking at Manupatra and it even tracks overruled cases and track citations.
That's all editorial. That's all editorial. That's not technology.
But that's so useful, right? Like for anybody to know that it's out and out has been overruled and not have to do like additional searches there.
And then if I can just add, what we introduced in late 2000 was our first graph, okay, which is called authority check. It came out somewhere in 2008. Okay, even my CTO and I could not explain that to the RM. So the RM also could not understand and was not showing that tool to people. But over the next couple of months or maybe 1 or 2 years, the clients started asking, what is this? Then some of them understood the relevancy and the usefulness of that bubble chart. They explained to the RM. Today, most of the RMs start with that.
Yeah, no, of course, it's brilliant. To know how many times a case has been cited and relied on is very, very helpful. And it would take anybody manually. I mean, I think it's impossible to do it manually.
We, as I love to call it, we introduce stats and maths into law. See, lawyers generally run away when you talk of stats or maths. Okay. We introduce graphically, and the future is to giving more graphical options for people to understand faster.
No, absolutely. So that's the story of Manupatra. I know now we just touched upon it a little bit with all of these newer startups and newer companies that are trying to get into this space. How are you continuing to be a differentiator? And what is the plan for Manupatra in the coming years right now?
You see, we have maintained and will continue to maintain our leadership by introducing new features and giving better customer service. But at the end of the day, as I said, legal research is a commodity business. There are no margins there left. Okay, we had very good margins, but those margins have come down. But because of our value additions that we have given, we have been able to take our margins up again. Now these newbies will have to come up with better features and better analytics and better customer service. And that requires a lot of money without any guarantee of any returns. And it will be very difficult for newcomers to differentiate their product with us. Well, the first thing a customer will ask, okay, what is the difference? They'll say we are 50% cheaper than Manupatra. We have seen that over the last 20 years, the number of products have come up who have said we are cheaper than Manupatra. People have used it for 2-3 months and called a RM, boss, come and give it because I can't find anything there yet. Or I'm calling the customer support, no one is responding.
I see. So I also want to sort of ask, because there are a lot of other products under the Manupatra umbrella right now. How did you start diversifying? Like, how did you first come up with the idea of just building out newer, more specific products?
That's more into Priyanka and my DNA. We cannot sit idle. If look, Manupatra was running, we were adding new features, etc., which the clients were appreciating. But then what do we do here? So we said, okay, let's start. So we started with law skills. Unfortunately, that's not done as well as we thought it will be. Because we thought EdTech is the in thing. But what we didn't realize, the other EdTech companies are all marketplaces.
Yeah.
Okay, if you look at any of the big names, well-funded, they have tie-ups with colleges and they're selling. So they are basically salespeople for those colleges. They don't have any proprietary IPR. And in the long run is the IPR that one has, which can be monetized and you can make money through that. So we have over 150 courses, which we own the IPR. But yes, 2022, we will be revamping that under Manupatra Academy. And we are looking for some people to head that academy and we'll have multiple verticals.
Wow. So just for our audience, Law Skills is this online website that's run under the One Patra bracket, has a lot of courses on law, including in a multitude of regional languages. There's also Case Watch and My Case, at least
Yeah.
as for my
Yeah.
list that I did want to
Yes.
touch on.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if you could walk us through those products
Okay.
as well.
See, E-Code Committee is doing a phenomenal job in computerizing and coming up with new features and products, but they still don't have a pan-India thing. So we are trying to fulfill that space where a user can search pan-India for the dates or set alerts, etc. That is Case Watch. Then we came up with our one of our ambitious products, My Case. We've invested a lot of money and manpower and time. This was, as I said in the beginning, the lockdown made us think. So My Case is a baby of lockdown. Because if one lawyer like you are in Jaipur and your colleagues are in Delhi or Bombay and you want to work, we didn't want the work to happen on Google Drive or Azure, Office 365 or on emails. You have to give them a platform. So we came up with My Case, which is a document and a matter management. Actually, we have rebranded these products as enterprise mobility solutions. Okay, so Case Watch, My Case. Our next product which will come up is a compliance product. See, compliance today is dominated by the top 3-4 CAs. We will be targeting mid and small companies, and compliances are growing. And here we are not talking about secretarial compliances. We're talking about compliances up to the taluka level.
Wow. Okay.
So our team is working on that. And immediately after that is our contract management product called Apna Contract, which will have again 4 phases. It will start with a repository where companies can upload their contracts and our technology will create filters. You'll have a dashboard, alerts. Phase 2 will help you draft a contract.
Okay.
Okay. Our phase 3 will be introduction of AI, making them smart contracts. Our phase 4, when that technology is still emerging, will be a distributed ledger.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that is still 2-3 years away, but that's our roadmap. We may also come up with an ODR solution, online dispute resolution, sometime end of next year. Because we have all the components with us. My Case has some, compliance has some, contract will have some. So we just have to put that in one umbrella.
Wow, that sounds very exciting, and like it's kind of covering the entire wide array of whatever's sort of moving online in the industry. And that's very exciting to hear. So I'm trying to get a sense of how, client behavior and client demands may have changed during the pandemic. Like, how did you have to, did you have to pivot? Did you have to do something differently? How did it go?
We actually raised our price during pandemic.
Wow.
So we are a contrarian. We started legal this thing when no one was doing it. We launched during the .com bust. So our DNA is being contrarian, to do opposite what the market wants you to do.
Okay, great. So just a little follow-up from that side in terms of client demands of a legal research database. Do you think any newer demands have come up? Is there anything you're working towards in that space?
See, fortunately or unfortunately for us, we have brought in features which our target audience was not aware or familiar. Even this can happen.
Okay.
Okay.
So you are driving the change yourself. It's not really that client driven as such.
No, our initial days, Manupatra was built on the advice of clients. They used to tell us, okay, you don't have this content, you should have this also. We should tell them, okay, we don't have that. Okay, please take those books from our library. I remember in one high court, I gone there and they had this 100 plus volume of one journal we were trying to get. Spoke to the Chief Justice, he instructed the librarian. We hired a truck, transported them to Delhi.
Wow.
And then after 1 month, transported everything back.
Wow, that's great to hear, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just have a few more questions here. I'm trying to understand, in this, now that there is like something called legal tech and like it's becoming big and money is flowing in, how does somebody who is a young professional or is in law school, start engaging with this space?
My advice will be not to do it.
Okay. And you say
Again,
that
being a
because
contrarian, look, you have learned how to do law. You're not done how to do business. Okay. You have to know the nitty-gritties of how to start up, do business. Otherwise, you will be dependent on a third party to guide you and advise you for the nitty-gritties of business.
Right.
You join a corporate, see how it's working for 1 year, 2 years, then you do, because there's nothing called the time is going away. Maybe after 2 years, you come up with a far superior idea. We have seen a lot of products which were developed by law school students, but they couldn't bring it to a commercial stage because of the lack of experience. Brilliant guys, brilliant products, but you need expertise. You have to have some business acumen too, and most importantly, a team. You cannot do anything without a team. It's all a team. So that's why wherever you look at Manupatra, it always says Manupatra team. Team Manupatra.
Yeah. So how did you find your core team? Like, was it chance? Did you know these people? How did the core team sort of come together?
Priyanka, I knew. So I hired her. The rest is chance. And we are very lucky. We are very, very lucky too.
And how big is Manupatra right now? If you can just give us stats, in terms of employees, offices, and subscribers, etc.
We are around, our employee size is like the Bombay Stock Exchange on a daily basis, not on a minute by minute basis. We should be close to 160 today.
Wow, that's massive.
Yeah. And we have a subsidiary in Dhaka where we have 5 people. So that makes it 165. So we are the first Indian publisher to actually open an overseas office.
And how did that happen? Like, how did Dhaka happen of all places?
Okay, see, we had already covered up the entire data of Indian subcontinent. Okay, once you have the data, and we had some inquiries coming in from Bangladesh, but they had a major problem of remitting money into India, which still is there today. So the only option was to open an office there. For the data we were anyway doing. But now, in the last 6 months, we are moving all our operations of Bangladesh, even data collation and technology to Dhaka.
Wow.
So we also thought of doing Pakistan. But it's difficult, but we have a lot of customers in Pakistan. More than Bangladesh, actually.
That's very interesting to know. So what other countries?
It is very logical. Because till 50s, our laws were common. And the civil and the criminal and the partnership, the laws were made at that period. So even if you look at today's judgments coming out of Pakistan, Bangladesh, they have references to Indian judgments.
Yeah, of course. No. Yes, that absolutely does have a logical conclusion to it. Yeah. So I just, that were all the questions that I sort of wanted to ask you, Deepak. Thank you so much for taking the time. Again, just one last thing. Do you have any parting thoughts? Do you have any words of wisdom? Because you've been in this space for so long. I don't know anybody else who's been doing this for this long consistently.
Well, best of luck to all the legalpreneurs.
There will be a new term by the end of this year, I think.
Let's hope so.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Deepak, for taking
Thank you.
the time to do this interview. Yes.
Thank you.
And I think this has been very interesting because some of your answers were so contrary to what market is trying to build. And I think that's about Manupatra's differentiator, and that's what really is helping Manupatra to stay different, if I can just say that.
Thank you.